All praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And this is what's happened. This is where we are today. Uh, the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls God, his name is Yahweh. Yeah, if you start at verse 15, he told us, let me go. Well, this is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, our power, said if we don't obey him, he's going to bring all these curses on us. And so we're brought into Egypt again. And this isn't the actual land of Egypt. This is spiritually speaking. Because here in Babylon the Great, this is the land known as Sodom and Egypt. And the Israelites were scattered all around the world, especially through the transatlantic slave trade, which this lesson is going to be going into. And Lord willing, it's edifying. It's not going to be too long. I really only have like a few things I want to focus on. But verse 68 again, and Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. The ships is important, because this is the main mode of transportation that was used to get us around the world from the 1500s to the 1800s. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies, the other nations. All the other nations are our enemies. All the other nations have participated or had some, what do you call it? Some benefit from having the Israelites in slavery and subjection. Starting with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man here in Babylon the Great. The Israelites built up this country to where it is now. You other nations, you heathen, you Edomites, you can lie all you want, you can discredit us all you want, but this is the truth. You heathens wouldn't be anywhere without the Israelites under your subjection. And no man shall buy you, meaning no man shall redeem you. Let me get that word buy. H7069 Kwana. To purchase, recover, redeem. So meaning that no one is going to slave us, but Yahushua is coming in these days to save us. Look at the signs of the times. Yahushua is coming. But let me jump to this article real quick, because this is called A Journey in Chains from the Library of Congress, and I'm just going to jump down to the main point that I want to get to. This section is called the Middle Passage. It says, for the captive Africans aboard a slave ship, and we're not Africans, we are Israelites. For the captive Africans aboard a slave ship The voyage to the New World was a passage of nearly unimaginable horror. So these were horrific conditions that these heathen had us in. For most captives, the separation from their villages and families was still fresh, and now they were thrust into a hostile and alien world at the mercy of people who were like none they had ever seen before. Upon boarding, they were stripped of their belongings, branded, chained, and sent below decks, where they would be forced to remain for most of the months-long journey. So let me go back to this. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and jump up to 49. Deuteronomy 28 and 49. And Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Okay, these different nations, they were speaking different languages. These were the first slavers came from Portugal and Spain. The other ones joined in, like the English, the Dutch. A lot of nations participated in the transatlantic slave trade. The small hats, they like to point fingers at everybody else. The Hamites, just because we have dark skin or whatever, doesn't mean all so-called dark-skinned people are the same. They like to say other Africans sold Africans into slavery. So what? What's that got to do with you? Did you not participate in this? Quit pointing the finger at other people. But Small has participated in this. Every nation participated in this. Even Israelites. But the point being, these nations that came, we wouldn't understand their language. It says, and Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. Now in this little article, this is what they're saying. The horrors, they didn't care if you're old, young, a child, elderly, whatever. Matter of fact, we'll go up to verse 48. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. And you could look up, yoke of iron. Stay show Jake. Anyway, back to the article. The slave deck itself was a living nightmare. To the slave traders, these human beings were cargo, and slave ships were especially designed to transport as many captives as possible, with little regard to either their health or their humanity. Slave decks were often only a few feet high, and the African captives were shackled together, lying down, side by side, head to foot, or even closer. Deaths from suffocation, malnutrition, and disease were routine on the slave deck, as were arbitrary torture and murder by the crew. So no mercy. suffocation, malnutrition. Hey, but this is all um, judgment from the Most High. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai allowed this to happen because we disobeyed. So we broke the commandments. We broke the covenant. You know, the closeness, the filth, and the fear delivered many into madness, and suicide attempts were common. Let me get that. Let me see. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 28. And Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. So, is there another one? Is oops, Salaki. But let me get that word madness. That doesn't really help. Shagai 1, to be mad, maddened, to show madness. Basically, to be driven crazy, to go insane. So, when you're insane, you're going to do pretty much anything. You're going to look for a way out. The closeness, the filth, and the fear delivered many into madness, and suicide attempts were common. Other ships could smell slavers from far away, and Portuguese sailors called them tumbeiros, or floating tombs. So let me get this here. This is that picture. There it goes. Plan of African ships lower deck with Negroes in the proportion of not quite 1 to a ton or toe. Ton. So that's just one, pretty much how the decks were laid out. Had you in confines of these close quarters. I mean, put yourself in that situation there. Can't move, can't go nowhere. Chained up to the next person. They don't have like today the amenities today. Like you just go to the restroom, whatever. It's probably pitch black down there. Had them separated. Let me see. Remarks on the slave trade, which I didn't read this before, so it must afford great pleasure to every true friend to liberty to find that the case of unhappy Africans engrosses the general attention of the humane in many parts of Europe, but we do not recollect to have met with a more striking illustration of the barbarity of the slave trade than in a small pamphlet lately published by Society at Plymouth in Great Britain. Right. A number of human creatures packed side by side almost like herrings in a barrel. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of that. When you open a can of sardines or whatever, like a can of, you know, can of mackerel or whatever, just packed in there like that. Reduced nearly to the state of being buried alive with just air enough to preserve a degree of life sufficient to make them sensible of all the horrors of their situation. To every person who has ever been at sea, it must present a scene of wretchedness in the extreme. For with every comfort which room, air, variety of nourishment, and careful cleanliness can yield, it is still wearisome and irksome state. What then must it be to those who are not only deprived of those the necessaries of life, but confined down to greater part of the voyage to the same posture, with scarcely the privilege of turning from one painful side to the other, and subjected to all the nauseous consequences arising from seasickness and other disorders of unavoidable amongst a number of forlorn wretches? Where is the human being that can picture to himself in this scene of woe without, at the same time, execrating a trade which spreads misery and desolation wherever it appears? Where is the man of real benevolence who will not join heart and hand in opposing this barbarous and iniquitous traffic? So, back to the back. Anyway, um, I'm just gonna keep reading a little bit more, and then uh, I'll have a few more scriptures. Olaudah, if I say that right, Equiano described his journey. The closeness of the place and heat of the climate added to the number in the ship, which was so crowded that each had scarcely room to turn himself, almost suffocating us. This wretched situation was again aggravated by the galling of the chains, now become insupportable, and the filth of the necessary tubs into which the children often fell and were almost suffocated. The shrieks of the women and the groans of the dying rendered the whole scene of horror almost inconceivable. Those who were not killed by conditions on board were often permanently disabled by beatings or disease. Many slave captains threw sick or injured Africans overboard so that their losses would be covered by insurance. And then it goes on to say, they fought back. Some of them fought back and whatnot and rebelled and all this. But the point being, this was reality. This happened. This is part of the curses. This happened to the Israelites, and we were given into our enemies' hands. So, what? So here's Revelation 13:10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So this is it's not looking too good for you. Esau, Edom, all you other nations, because this is what the Israelites are looking forward to, the elect of Israel. You did this to us, to our people. And it's going to be your turn coming up pretty soon. May Lord willing, this is edifying. I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. And double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Shalom.